What's going on, guys? So I have a big goal for the V8 S10 project. So I'm trying to get out to a dyno so we can finally get this properly tuned, which is going to be a huge milestone for this project. So right now the truck does run and drive, as you guys know, but it's not perfect. It's actually pretty far from it. So we have our tweaked like PCM that's made for like a express van with like a 5.7 just stock like 350 motor. This motor is kind of far from a stock 350 motor. We got the 383, we got a cam, we got heads. We have bigger injectors. So all of it's just a lot to like for an email tune, basically, because that's all it is. I gave someone my specs and they basically just wung all of that stuff into existence. I'm not sure how they even do that, and it's this close. So it's pretty decent for what it is, but it's not perfect. So the goal is to get all of this tidied up and ready to go to the dyno so we can go make some power. And honestly, what I'm more excited about is to just make this drivable, because watching some other people try to drive this, because I've kind of gotten used to it, reminds me of like just how bad it is. It is. It's a little quieter when we get back. So I've already talked with the dyno shop owner. He knows what the truck is. He knows who's tuned it before. He knows all of these going-ons with it, and he seems to be pretty confident that like he's going to go through all of this and it's going to be like way better and something I should be way more happy with. So my goal is to just make sure that this is ready to actually make a small journey to get there, have the snot ran out of it, because we're going through everything. We're not just tweaking. I'm pretty sure that he's going to like completely start over again. So this is going to be ran on the dyno, which should hopefully get some good footage of, but it does make me a little nervous because like that's a lot, and the truck has had some mishaps. So what I've done so far is I got the radiator, I've dumped that, and the oil is dumped out of it. My main reason for dumping the radiator is because I have been having some overheating issues. And if you guys followed along with the build, you might remember I did this trick little oil cooler. You can barely see it down in there. It's actually off like a Ford Fusion or something. It's like a transmission cooler. It's just like a junkyard find. And I'm super proud of myself for coming up with this concoction. I use the bypass tube for the coolant, and that runs the coolant down to that block, and then the oil comes from the stock S10 remote oil deal. And so that's how I like made a homemade basically oil cooler, because our radiator didn't have one in it because we have the aftermarket one now. But I think it's putting unnecessary heat into the cooling system, so it's got to go. I'm having overheating issues, and I don't really think it's necessary. I kind of thought it was at first, but the more I've looked into it, if you just run good synthetic oil, I don't really think it's that super necessary, at least for my application. Yeah, I gotta get that all yanked off. I got a new little elbow so I can have that be the way it's supposed to, and then basically just loop the hoses for the oil cooler deal down there and just not have one. I'm also going to get the oil changed on here. This will be the first oil change that I can actually run synthetic oil on, so that is really good and just in time for it. Besides that, it's kind of a lot of little tiny projects. So that is pretty much the goal, is to just get everything kind of tidied up and just like triple check everything and make sure we're solid so we can A, drive there, B, big B is not blow up, and C, I don't know what stands for C, but just make it back home and have something really awesome that we can play with. I got a couple little interior things I got to do as well, like that tack needle that keeps sticking. So I'm going to get on with some of that stuff. All right, well, that ended up being a little bit more work than what I thought it was going to be, mainly because I had to take the alternator and the bracketry that was there and the pulleys and the belt and pretty much all that good stuff just to get to where these hoses actually go on here, which is here and there, which are the two hoses we had bypassed going to the cooler, one going there, one coming back. But I got all that tore out. We can actually see those nice AFR heads. I don't actually get to see those too often with the way this is packed in here. I did also notice my gaskets for my water pump are like really green and almost kind of moldy looking. I guess it's just the green dye. It's just really weird looking. It's not leaking. But I am loving how much cleaner this is already. Getting rid of those two hoses. There's so many hoses and just there's already all the wires and everything else going on. So that got rid of a big chunk of just complication. That's 4 hoses from this area that are just gone now. I also have on order some heat shrink that would fit this bigger tube. I think this is 3/4 and this is like 5/8 or something like that. When I made all this, I didn't have the heat shrink, so these nice little ends are just like electrical taped up, and it's actually like getting chewed up over here. Not looking too great. The coolant's drained. This is kind of the time to do that. I'm on a little bit of a time crunch because I got to prioritize because I only have like a few days to get all this stuff done because we got to be at the dyno. But I think I can knock that out real quick and then just put all this back together. Okay, it is the next day after a really long, like, last night. I stayed out and I pretty much got this all put back together. So whole front accessories back on. We got our oil tube, if you can see it down there, is looped right back. So it's like, it just goes nowhere, basically. I even just finished up my little putting heat shrink on these. That kind of annoyed me. I electrical taped them and the tape was like starting to like ooze off with the heat and like kind of fray, I guess. And so yeah, now we got this looking nice and pretty, and it gives it a little bit of protection because it was kind of like rubbing against there. There's not really much I can do about that. But now it has to wear through that big thick sleeve before it can hurt anything. So that's done. I even ran my power steering line a little bit because it was way jacked over to the side because it had to make room for all of that stuff we had up in there. So now it's just super simple. I like it. I like how much more simple it is. It's just, this truck already has like a lot going on under the hood. So it is a very welcome change. I hope it makes an improvement. I do have to run out and get me some coolant to top this all back off with, and hopefully find the additive that I want. Help with the overheating temperature a little bit too. So this is what I ended up getting for my additive to put in here. Should help hopefully a little bit with the cooling, along with removing the oil cooler, which I think was actually just making this hotter. So I got a few things I gotta get tidied up, get this poured in here, double check a couple other things, but for the most part I'm pretty solid. I even got the oil in there, new filter and all that. So before we finish up here, there is one last thing we got to talk about under here. So one of the last things I need to get done on this is the battery. It does still start the truck for now, but it usually takes a few tries. It might just kind of get hung up on the starter, and I'm hoping it's not a starter issue. I'm thinking it's just the battery's cooked. It's on my list. This is not getting replaced right now though, because they're expensive and I have to get it ordered, and I want a fancy Optima red top, so I can't just get that at the parts store. So me and Irene's actually been talking about how we don't have a jump box in case this actually doesn't decide to start one day, or if one of our other cars. All we have is jumper cables, which work, but it's kind of a pain, and you kind of need like 2 people, and you have to bring the other car over to the car that's dead, and maybe it's in a weird spot, or maybe you're on the side of the road and you got to ask for help. Not really cool. So that's why when Gulu reached out to me and decided to send me their best-selling jump starter, I said, heck yes, because we definitely need one of these. So I'm really curious to play with this real quick and see if this actually helps our weak starting issue, and is it all just the battery? All right, let's see what we got here. We got, first thing is instructions. You should probably read these. I did not, and I almost blew myself up at my computer desk. We also have warnings that you should also read. I don't have time for that, so I'm going to set these to the side. And then we have the Gulu. This is the GP4000 model. So this is one of their bigger ones. This can supposedly start up to, I think it's 10 liters. Like, that's a lot of liters. Because could you imagine if we had 10 liters in here? You have, this whole thing's just like a power bank. It has a actually pretty bright flashlight. Get a look over there. Decently bright. You got a bunch of different strobe modes and all kinds of stuff if you're on the side of the road. You got USB, just like charging ports. I think that is, yeah, that's where the jumper cables go in. So yeah, you can charge it through these, which it does come with a charging cord. You can just use like a phone charger, cigarette lighter, or whatever. You can plug, we use this one, we'll try the USB. And actually, I don't have my phone on me, but this would charge my phone if I actually had it on me right now. Oh, also, something I seen, jumper cables. We're not worried about those, that's not important. You didn't buy this for that, let's be real. You bought it, you can plug this in and it gives you a little cigarette lighter adapter. So like if you have another, like a tire pump that uses a cigarette lighter and it won't reach from your cigarette lighter to your tire or whatever it is, this actually has like a cigarette lighter adapter. That just seems kind of neat to me. Okay, so I'm gonna try to turn this over just the way it is right now. And I don't think it's dead, but I want to see if it does that weird clicking thing, just so you guys can kind of get like a comparison, because I want to see if it is better with the jump pack on it. Yeah, so that's like the story every time I go to start this. It just clicks and nothing happens. If I keep doing it, it will start. I'm pretty sure it's just the battery. Let's find out with the Gulu jump pack if it actually is just the battery. All right, so we're plugged cables in there. Easy. Now, this is supposed to be super safe. There's two ways to use it. Right now, I can take these and, okay, nothing happens. It's supposed to sense the voltage, and it has its own little like microchip, and it makes sure like you don't blow yourself up. If your battery's dead, the issue with a lot of these, people think they don't work. You have to override it if there's no voltage in the battery for it to actually work, for it to sense, and you have to override it. This one's real easy. All you do is hit the boost button, and then that will just put full power to these. It's just like an old school jump pack. That's when you can't touch them together. That's what I found out at my computer desk when I was looking at this after I just took it out of the box. So do as I say, not as I do. That one on. It says correct. I hear clicking noises. I think we're good. Let me go see what it does. Oh my God, that was fast. Did you notice how fast that was? That was zoom.
It didn't even hesitate.
Wow. Okay, I can't leave it running because we're in the garage and this thing like fumes like crazy. Let me hit it again, I want to see if it just wasn't a fluke. Wow. It actually almost started on its own too. This thing never starts on its own. I wonder if the starter's just been going like so slow. It's making the whole... Our tune sucks, which is obviously what we're trying to fix, but maybe it turning so slow is just making everything worse. So I say that was a pretty successful test. Okay, so that was actually pretty cool. They also sent me this portable tire pump, which I didn't even ask for. This wasn't supposed to be part of this. I'm going to turn it on. Did you hear that nice little beep? This thing's actually pretty fancy. So it has its own battery. This is rechargeable. It's just like the jump pack. It does have the different settings where you just put it on your tire, you hit go, or you turn it off. Turn it on. Yeah, and it'll just turn off when it actually gets to the pressure. This does have its own light, which is also pretty bright. And it has USBs, so you can also charge your phone with your tire pump. So I think you'll definitely see us using this in the future. I know I'll be using this in the future, especially when we're out at the racetrack and we got to adjust tire pressures. We have like an old school Ryobi one, but that thing could croak at any moment. And this one does have the auto shut off, which is kind of cool. So a couple of really cool items there from Gulu. I think both these things would be useful for pretty much anyone that watches this channel, including me. So thanks Gulu for being my very first sponsorship on this channel. And let's get on to this dyno. I think we're at the right place.
How you feeling about this?
I'm not sure. Slightly nervous. Now he's about to find out that it doesn't start. Only ever did that on these engines, so like... Is that just like roughing up the surface basically?
It's welding, it's putting material down. That rod's welding that material onto the roller. Go rub your hand on the bike dyno roller.
Oh, is that what's in the center of this one?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That is a lot grippier than like what's on the... That's just like what's on your like ratchet or something. It already sounds a lot better. I'm pretty sure he's got the idle dropped closer to like 750. I'm not sure what he's getting into. It definitely sounds different. It was definitely too high before. better than the V6.
That air box is cooking. This truck's cooking too. Holy shit. Unless it's a solid body sulfur restriction, the manifold pressure is tanking. Starts off with 96 kg, drops all the way down to 86. Holy shit. It's crazy. I don't know if it's
So, new throttle body, intake.
LS swap. Yeah, that's what we're breathing through.
Oh, that'll never, no wonder.
That was my just camouflage, so mostly look stock under the hood. Airbox might be an issue. I really like that it still said V6 on it. Taking parts off one after another so we can make that go up hopefully. Oh, you got it over that.
Yep, it's trying.
Last one. So we survived our dyno tune and we learned some really interesting stuff along the way. So I was hoping to narrate a little bit more during the process, but there was some communication issues and stuff with the owner, and let's just say I probably won't be going back there. But we did find out that the stock airbox setup was worth 20 horsepower. That was minus 20 horsepower having that on. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But surprisingly enough, the rest of this, with this like pancake 90-degree turn, the mass air with the screen on it that everyone always complains that like you should remove those or whatever, that was like 1 or 2 horsepower. Basically nothing having that off versus having it on. This guy, 20 horsepower. So I think the filter in this thing is just completely jacked. But I might, since we're changing, because there's another thing, our mass, we're not using that anymore. So we're doing like a speed density tune, so this has basically been deleted from the system. It's not plugged in, it's not gonna be plugged in, I don't need it anymore. So that gives me some more freedom to come up with maybe something else here that'll be even better than that, and or just go all out. So that should help going forward. I was hoping for a little bit more on the power table. I do know the exhaust is a huge, probably restrictive point too. So if you watched a couple videos back when I got the exhaust on this truck, I was happy that it was just quiet and drivable, but the transitions and the bends or lack of bends and smooth connections are far from high flow. So there might be another 20, maybe more horsepower just wrapped up in getting this exhaust redone later properly. So I do know we have a pretty sweet torque curve right now. And I say curve, but it's basically just a wall that goes up and goes across and stays up. We have more torque than horsepower. So as far as a truck goes, that is actually a pretty sweet amount of torque. It's there all the time, no matter what. It tapers off a little bit at the end, but that's just to be expected. So that was one of the things that I did talk about with the tuner, and he mentioned a few times that this could take a lot more camshaft than what it has, and it could, I'm sure. But this is a truck. It's not a Corvette. It's not a race car. It's an off-road truck that tows and hauls and does all the normal stuff. So I might revisit that, and we might step it up a little bit more. But I got to be careful going down that road, because I don't want to lose all of my low-end torque for actually being a truck that has some weight to move around, just so I can have more like horsepower peak numbers all the way up here at the top. But it doesn't really matter, because we kind of ran out of fuel. So I hit the limit of the S10's like stock fuel pump. So before we really move forward with anything else, that's going to have to be bumped up. So we got it to where it's dialed and set up. It's right at the limit right now. But before we go forward with anything other than just like that air intake, it's going to have to be bumped. Well, I guess I got an intake I got to start fabricating. So I appreciate you guys hanging out to the end. If you have any suggestions or anything at all, I read all your guys' comments. Drop them down below. While you're down there, check out the description. Check out the link for the Gulu stuff down in the description. And I think that's it. Make sure you put a like if you enjoyed this. Almost forgot that one. So thanks for hanging out, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.